Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming onto my channel and watching me. This is a spiritual scientist channel, and I'm Victor Hamza. Thanks for tuning in. How are you? I hope you're doing great. My voice sounds a little funny. I've been sick for like 3 weeks, and I never get sick. I was a really negative environment, and I know I said this on my last show. So, still sick. Hey, hello, Denise. Thanks for tuning in. Um, would you? I thought I'd do something really silly to start to break the ice. And I was walking my dog yesterday, and I'm very creative. So I came up with a song on the spot, and I'm not pretty shy, so I thought I'd sing it to you. Would you want to hear it, Denise? There's only one or two people on it. If you want to hear it, let me know. Otherwise, my voice is out. You can hear me coughing. Uh, Sup, Digital Intel, yo. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. Okay, Denise says, of course. So I got one yes. So that's all I need. Like a little encouragement? Sure. So I'm going to sing this song to you. Again, my voice is out. I used to sing. Thank you so much. Glad you're here. We're going to have some fun, I think. I'm going to start it off with some silliness to get you all in the mood and have some interesting things to talk about. I thought I'd talk about getting information from your higher self, and this is stuff I've came across working for me. But anyway, let's start. I literally was walking my dog last night, and I just started singing out of the top, off the top of my head. I just started singing a song. So I was just talking on the I Am channel with Jay Chris, awesome guy. I love him. I feel like we're bros. Like we could have a bromance or something. But I love his channel, and he always has some great content. I paid the $4.95 to call in through Skype, and I never had Skype before really going that well. And I thought we had a great conversation. So, and my voice sounds horrible. So please excuse that I'm off key here. But I just thought it was funny. I just started saying these lyrics. Sometimes poems come to me, or lyrics, or things like that. So, again, my voice is out. So I'm going to sing you this song that this was last night, and I was just thinking it again, and I wrote it down. One of my sons said, write it down. Hey, so I'm going to sing you this song, and then you can tell me how bad it is. I thought it's hilarious. Okay, here we go. A one and a two and a three. I've got three teens inside that won't get off their games, so I had to take the dog outside. Even though I'm sick, I've got a handful of shit and a dog next to me. I'm walking in the dark, it's true, at 23 degrees. I've had this cough for 3 weeks, and I think I have the flu. My nose is running real bad. Everything I'm saying is true, and I've got a handful of shit and a dog next to me. I'm walking in the dark at 23 degrees. I've got a handful of shit and a dog next to me. I'm walking in the dark, it's true, at 23 degrees. I don't know, you could just keep going with it, but I just thought it was funny. So I'm like walking in the dark with my dog. I picked up, you know, I picked up the, dog poop, and I'm like, what am I doing out here? I have the flu, I'm sick. And all of a sudden, these words came in my head. I'm like, I have a handful of shit and a dog next to me. I'm walking in the dark, it's 23 degrees. I started singing it like, la, 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 la. I think the neighbors, I don't know if anybody heard me, but I thought it was hilarious. I just thought I'd share it with you. I'm very shy, obviously. Anyway, so cool. So, I had a lot of stress. I was switching jobs, and I'm coughing. So a lot of stress, and finally got me in a, lower vibration where I got sick. And I haven't got sick in 7 years. So I haven't got sick because I got all that toxins out of my body, and it helped me not to get sick. So if you don't want to get sick, who does want to get sick? Get rid of the toxins in your body. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But I just thought I'd get to, the juicy parts real quick for the people who have no patience like I do with these videos. I have no patience sometimes for videos. I mean, it's hard for me to read sometimes. We're like in this weird place where like I used to read a book a day, like book every other day. I would be read, and now I could still read, but it's hard for me to like, just sit down. It seems like have the time. There's always something going on. It's like boom, boom, boom. So, I watch videos. I watch everybody's videos, and I love the community out there. Everybody's so cool. Anyway, so I was praying, and okay, cool. So, I used to, among other things, if you watch my other channels, I talk about myself. You could go back and watch it. I lived with a Native American Indian tribe, and I wanted to learn shamanism, and they took me in as one of the members of the tribe. So, among other, things I've done in my life, and one of the things that, we would sit down and talk, I'd be like, well, how do know, like, if I want to know something in the future, or what do I want to answer? Really, I want to answer to a question. Like, if I have an answer, like I have an important like event, I want an answer. Like, what's the answer from like the heavens? What's the answer from an angel, my guardian angel? How could I get an answer? Like, what's the secret? And excuse me for coughing. I hate it. I got so they would tell me, take some tobacco. We were putting in like an abalone shell, and you burn it at night, and pray and say, grandfathers, please allow me to have an open dream tonight. So that's like, the secret. So I've been like last week or so, I had some less stress. I wanted to quit my job and go back to an old job I had. I went to this new job to try to get a promotion. Ends up being I was getting paid less and working 20 more hours a week. Hence, I got sick. All the stress. So now I'm going back to my old job. With that said, I wasn't sure if I should go back to my old job or new job. What should I do? I just want some guidance. So I pray real hard right before I fall asleep. Please show me in my dream what I should do. And sure enough, I didn't get a lot of sleep because I get up in the middle of the night. But I wake up, and there's a dream, and in the dream, that's my answer. So you could say your higher self, your God, your spirit guides, however you want to say it. That's how you're going to get answer to, your question. So like, if you're quite like, my question is, should I go from my last job and go to my new job? So, I had a dream, and in my dream, I had my son on my shoulder. He was younger, and I carried him on my shoulder, and he's bigger now. And I was there, and my boss was like trying to hit him. I was like, don't hit my son. And, I walked away, and then he was like saying a lie. And I was like, And I woke up, I'm like, oh, he's attacking my family because he's not paying me the money promised me, and he's lying to me. Got the message, message received. So I'm just telling you how you could get answers in your own life, when you're seeking, spiritual guidance. Instead of paying all these tarot readers and all these people, try to, seek it within yourself. Pretty interesting stuff. My last name's can't wait to get over this. Finally got insurance back because I switched jobs and jobs back. And in New York, it takes 3 months, So I got insurance and I quit like the next day. And now I'm going back to my old job. So I won't have insurance for 3 months. So it's fun. You have to get on a COBRA. It's this whole thing. And very stressful. Enough about my problems. But with that said, I could seek out medical attention. I'm a healer. So I've been doing healing for a long time. It's hard to heal sometimes yourself, more than strangers or people close to you, I've found. So it's easy for me sometimes on Facebook or strangers, say, oh, I have this problem, I have that problem. I'm like, boom. And like they're healed, it works so well. And people local in your life, it doesn't work. It's like Jesus said, like those close, prophets only, respect except in his own house. It's definitely that way. It's like, you just can't, I have a hard time sometimes healing myself or local people to me. But strangers, it works like a charm, you know. So it's just very strange sometimes. Maybe it's something to do with receptiveness and a belief system, but I try to speak quickly, get a lot of information out there. So excuse me if I seem to ramble on, but there always is, a point to all this. So anyway, so that's why I haven't been very sick. It's kind of funny because right before I got sick, I know exactly when I get sick. This woman contacted me. It was a friend of mine through Facebook. Everybody's a friend of mine on Facebook, and she said, my mother-in-law is in a hospice and she's dying. Would you do a healing? So I'm like, sure. So, right before I went to bed, another thing before I bed, I sent I think powerful healing, and I felt myself being drained of energy. And, I think on the other end of it, she was in the hospice, like dying, and she soaked up so much energy from me. And I think she like drained me, and I'm like, and then I got sick. I'm like, oh, great. Try not to heal almost dead people, okay? If you're sick, if you're about to get sick. Note to self. But you do what you can. Anyway, glad you liked my song. Um, so I was on the eat garlic and ginger. Oh, uh, it's funny because you get my mind going. I'm thinking ginger from Gilligan's Island. I'm like, she was hot. No, you can't stop, right? But yeah, garlic and ginger. I did eat ginger. I was eating ginger. Yeah, I know, right? I'm always thinking like I take it to like the weird levels sometimes. But I was gonna read you a little bit from something else, but in the meantime, I was on the J. Chris, channel. I am. He does a great job, and I thought to call in. And we were talking about some interesting things. Just to recap, a couple of things from that, maybe carry it on a little bit, and I'll talk about something else, and then let you guys go. Unless you don't want to go, I can always talk. My the Maharishi always said that he likes to teach in silence. I agree. My favorite way to teach somebody is in silence. I know it sounds funny, but the I am presence, vibrates with the Om in the universe in silence, and that is how really you should be taught. So I'd rather, teach that way. And sometimes people, I ask them, follow me, and I'm on Facebook, and I've been doing spiritual, teaching and healing for a long time, and they're like, okay, I'll follow you, but they don't get it. Like, follow me on Facebook. I'm like, no, follow me. So like, okay, I'm not trying to start a cult or anything. I'm just saying, follow me, spiritual, follow me, follow what I'm doing, follow what I'm teaching, and then, follow my vibration. Once you're in that, level, you'll get healed. And like, I'm always looking, I said, for like followers who could be leaders. So, like I have a friend of mine that's now a close friend for a couple years. We've been on Facebook, and I've never met her in person, but you know, talking all the time, chatting. And now she got to the level where she's able to, heal other people and doing healing. And, she's giving out advice. So I'm like, that's so cool. That's so cool. That's what I mean. I don't want anybody like, like follow me blindly, like question me all the time. Question everything. That's cool. I'm into that, but I don't, I want people to get to their own level. And then, it's like your crown chakra. It goes, you're taking stuff in all the time, taking stuff in, and eventually it spreads out like an antenna, and then you're going out. So when you get to that level and you're going out, that's great. So, you follow me until, it goes out. So I had a lot of friends, on Facebook. It was very funny that I'd say, oh, okay, I'm going to do this spiritual, teaching, and I got this going on, that going on. And then I go, will you follow me? They go, yeah, definitely follow you. But most times they follow me for like, a week, and then they go, oh, okay, I'm taking your ideas, but all right with you, I'm doing it on my own. I go, oh, okay. But it's like people sometimes they spin off. Like, it's like that song by, what's that? Those guys that smoke a lot of weed, that band, Insane in the Membrane. They have a song about, rock star, and they go, and this guy's gonna spin off and do his own thing. As soon as he gets to your level, he's gonna always trying to do the same kind of thing as you. That's what it always seems like with me, you know. I'm definitely the real deal, and I know that. But it just always seems like I'll try to do something, and somebody takes the idea and spins off, and then everybody, you know, spends their attention on that. I'm like, well, I'm actually trying to help you for you, not help you for me. So I put a lot of free content all the time for everybody. So anyway, my voice sounds really strange to myself. So where are we talking about? We're talking about getting, you know, spiritual, you know, spiritual guidance from your higher self, from your guides, you know, like, you know, even, you know, like I said to somebody, I'm going to do healing from you. And they were like on meth, you know, they're addicted to meth. So it's hard for me. I can't like counsel you all the time like you should get in rehab, because I can only text so much, you know. There's so many psychological, like you need to talk to somebody all day for like a long time to get your mental thing out of it. But a couple of things that came up when we were talking about, you know, with her, and you know, it's just she doesn't understand. So I said right now in the point where you're at when you're, you know, addicted to meth, that you're doing meth, and the reason I'm saying this is for a reason, and it bounces off what, you know, Jay Chris was saying on his show. Yeah, you're doing meth, but right now she's like, well, I was gonna quit meth earlier. I'm not saying her name, so I could tell a story. I was gonna quit meth earlier, but my mom didn't seem to care so much. I said, do you understand what you're doing? You're an adult saying that you won't stop doing drugs because your mom isn't paying attention to you. That's called acting out. You're acting out. You're seeking, you know, you're seeking attention from your mother is what you're saying. So you're gonna keep doing drugs. Does that make sense? So, and she's like, no, and yes, you know, so it definitely was the case. But what happens is, you know, especially when you're addicted to something like that, when you're addicted to meth, okay? I had somebody, you know, a week ago, I was very excited that I helped. They were smoking cigarettes for 40 years, 3 packs a day. They contacted me through, recommended through a friend. They said, okay, I want a healing. I'm addicted to cigarettes. I said, no problem. It's $30. I said, send me, you know, for a healing. $30 a healing. So she said, okay. You know, some people just stop there and they go, you know, I find that if people don't send you money, they don't value it, you know. There's an energy exchange. So there's a whole philosophy behind it. But I just said $30, you know. I mean, for something like that, you could charge whatever. You know, I could say $300, but I said $30. Anyway, 3 healings later, less than 4 days later, she stopped smoking. Okay, after 40 years, 3 packs a day, she's quit, and she sent me in another, you know, for 2 more healings. She said she could feel it, so it was really cool to have her stop, you know, smoking. So I got like it makes my day when it happens. So I had this woman that, you know, doing meth, and my point is that she said, you know, what she's acting out. So I said, your brain is going to find, you know, when you're in that case, any excuse to keep doing meth. So don't pay attention to your brain. She's like, I am my brain. How can I not pay attention to my brain? I said, really? She, yeah, the voice in my head always tells me, you know, do this, do that. I said, who's the person that's listening to the voice? And she was like, what do you mean? I said, who's the one that's listening to the voice telling you stuff? And she goes, I don't get what you're saying. I said, you're separate from that voice. Who is that voice? That voice is your ego. Who is that person listening to that voice saying to do drugs? Oh, cool. Thanks for clicking over, Tammy. I I love that. And I love everybody, you know, and he has such a great community on his channel. Um, so what I'm saying is, you know, it's that's what I was talking to Jay Chris a little bit about is and Digi's here. Isn't that cool? He's like, I feel like he's like, you know, royalty. Thanks, Digi, for tuning in. You know, I have a couple people. Everybody's royalty, but you know what I mean. He's on that show a lot. I wish you could call in, but I could read your text if you text me. But what I'm saying is like we're separate from our your mind, and thank God, I found meditation, and early. I mean, when I was like 4 years old, 5 years old, I'm not kidding. I started meditating. I would just pick a spot. I played a game. Oh, your Skype ain't working? Oh, sorry. I just got my Skype working, and I don't know. It's weird. Everybody wants like 33 cents to do something, it's great because they'll get rich off of it. And listen, 33 cents is a lot. It's a good thing. I'm all down with that. So somebody came up with Skype, and they're driving around in all these Lamborghinis, which is great. So, but anyway, I love you guys talk to each other. But anyway, so what I was saying is the deepest thing, that a guru, someone could tell you is like you're separate from yourself is not yourself. So that's all these guys always talk about, like your thoughts, you're not your thoughts. And like I was saying, when I was, "Hey, let's play a game. I'm just gonna stare at that spot for as long as I can to build up my willpower. I didn't I like it was like I'm daring myself to just stare nonstop. Not being autistic, right? But I'm just staring at this spot. And I would do that, and I would, okay, I'm gonna do it for longer. I would do it for longer. I was just doing all these things, like do breathing, and I was just naturally doing it. Maybe you could think it was from your past life or something. I don't know, but I was just always like doing that. And then when I was in fourth grade, my teacher taught me all these meditations during one class, like real hippie. I turned off all the lights, lit some incense, and he taught these meditations to the whole class. But I just thought they were so cool. I was like, I want to do that. So I kept doing them every day, and made up my own meditations and figured out all this stuff. So anyway, through meditation is my point. And I have a meditation class tomorrow through Facebook. If you go on my Facebook page, you could go on my website. It's $20. I'm doing like an hour intense, all the different stuff teaching about meditation. Through meditation, you learn to detach yourself from your thoughts. So it's those spaces, those quiet spaces, in between the thoughts. That's where you try to widen and make bigger. Hello, EM Sylvie. Hi, I know who you are. Thanks, tune in. So it's those spaces in between the thoughts that you expand and you make wider. And I was reading, I go on enlightenment gurus. I read about their stories all the time. Happy, happy, happy face. And I see, read them. And then, like, this one woman said she was in her living room and she just had, enlightenment occur to her, and she realized she wasn't having thoughts anymore, you know? And to swing back, swing back a little bit, right? Swing back. Sylvie's cool. Sylvie's my friend. So when you swing back a little bit and you go back a step and, talking about the new, old, nothing's really new, right? The old, new, Mandela affected community where we have NPCs, and people saying, well, if you don't have thoughts, you're, an NPC. Well, if you don't have thoughts, you may be enlightened too. So let's not discount that. But if you're having thoughts, it's one thing. But if you could naturally, like I could stop my thoughts and just have nothing. That's so intense. It's so cool. And then you learn to control your brain instead of it controlling you. Okay. I talk about this all the time, but it's just like the coolest thing ever to not have thoughts. I'd be in a place sometimes and there's total quiet, nothing around, and people, come up to me and start talking. It's like, oh, I feel nervous because there's nothing, I don't hear anything. It is the ultimate. Thanks, Digi. Digital Intel, I love that name. It is the ultimate to not have thoughts. So if you could, do you not have thoughts too? That's cool. If you could not have thoughts, it's like the next step. And yes, oh, thanks to Jason. That's awesome that he's teaching everybody to stop their mind. That's awesome. That's so cool. The ultimate way to stop your mind is by breathing and doing a breathing meditation, which I have on my Facebook. I have videos on it, and it's on my website, my name, victorhamza.com. It's called the Hamza Meditation. It's not named after me, but it's pretty cool. So anyway, when you learn to have those quiet, points in between thoughts, then you get more creative and you can control your thoughts. Now your brain works, and I said this before, excuse me for saying I said everything before, but your brain works on a priority, list. So we have the interior brain, the exterior brain. So you have the reptilian brain inside your head. Yes, there's a reptilian brain. And then you have all these other, as you go outer layers in the inside, medulla oblongata, you have the brain that's getting your breathing, it's regulating your breathing. So when you practice a breathing meditation, your thoughts aren't you, right? Everybody's been talking about that. That's what, gurus have been saying for thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of years. If you look in the Vedic texts, which I have, and you're not your thoughts. So what I'm saying is when you're breathing, you regulate your breathing and you quiet yourself and just concentrate on your breathing. You end up learning how to control more of your brain and more of the center part of your brain, so you can regulate towards the outer layers, the other aspects of your brain. And then all of a sudden you start learning how to use your brain instead of it using you. So most people out there in the world would say the NPCs are being used by the brain, so they don't know how to use the other way. So you are not your thoughts, correct? So if you're out there and you're saying, like on Jay Chris's channel, somebody, he said cake, I said cake. I'm like, I love him, he's great. I said, this is like cool. I'm talking, it's like chocolate cake times 10. Because people say, how'd you like that? I said, it's like chocolate cake. It's delicious. I loved it. They go, what? So it was like times 10. So he said, then later on, I didn't catch his reference, but he said like cake. And that was a pretty cool move that he said that. I was like very impressed. They circled back to it and interjected it, but I was missing it because I was on a different thought. But anyway, I don't usually miss things, so kudos to him. But and then someone else was commenting. Now I want cake. So it's those subliminal, words that you put out there. That's what they put on the TV and everything that feeds into the brain, and the brain feeds it back to you. So that's what they're hoping to do with all these television. The television has a flickering response rate to the brain, which is like a hypnotic state. So if you have a hypnotist, they'll do a flickering candle, or there you go, and they'll do lights, and all of a sudden you're hypnotized, and your outer brain is watching it. It gives you kind of a happy feeling in a way, because you're not have to use your brain so much. And I can tell my vibration lowers when I'm watching TV versus not watching TV. Yeah, it's brainwashing, certainly, exactly, 100%. And now the scary thing, if you want to talk about conspiracies, the scary thing is, what can they do with computers, right? Okay, I have kids. They're on the computer all the time. Can't take them off. Take a crowbar, put them in between them and the computer. You can't get them off. I mean, what happens with the computer is, yes, I'm a cake. Your computer, you'll find the most addictive, most interesting thing. You'll find it, and then you'll get locked into it, right? And then, like with the computer game, they'll find what's the best game ever, and they'll find it, and then they're in it, and then they get finally tired of it, and they'll find the next, what gives them that, that feedback, that addictive rush in their head, and then anything else isn't giving them that rush. So it's a feedback loop. And scary thing is what they could do now on the internet, as of, this is years ago, they could use these flickering response rates, and there's actually these programs that they could subliminally program. So when you're looking at the computer, you don't even realize it. It's feeding through your eyes right into your brain. It's giving you images and thoughts, and you don't even know what you're getting from the computer. You know, you really don't know. So I talked about this stuff before, you know, and I said if we're in some kind of a simulation, I'm gonna have the impulse to delete my videos, and I'm not going to be able to stop myself. You know, maybe that is the case because I said that, and I went on my channel. I deleted like 30 videos. I couldn't stop myself. I was like, delete, 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 delete. I just it's just like an overwhelming urge, and here I am talking about not being controlled, and I was like, delete. So I deleted like 30 videos, some of them for like 40 minutes each. I had some really cool ones, I thought, but being as it may, you know, I just deleted them. I don't know. I just had like this overwhelming impulse to delete it, and I couldn't stop myself. So very weird. But what I was talking about on one of those videos is that if we are in a simulation, there's a Facebook page called Mandela Effect, and when you go on it, I found that when I go on the page, if I commented on something, you know, that I saw a Mandela Effect, or I posted some things, there's so many, you know, trolls. They attack you. And then the crazy part was, yeah, the crazy part is, here's where it gets weird. You know, I start getting a headache, and I don't get headaches. You know, I'm an energy healer, and I know headaches are real. So, you know, I visualized it, and I saw like this AI, like, how do I say it? And I visualized it like a self-aware program, you know, around me trying to dig into my head to like change my thoughts. So I could feel it, you know, and I started digging in. I'm like, stop, you know, stop. So I, you know, blocked it. It sounds weird. I blocked it, and then I grabbed it, and I work a lot with, you know, angels, and if I'm in a computer, then I'm working with high level programs for healing. So I took those guys. I said, let's grab this one. I grabbed it, and let's reprogram this sucker. So in my mind, I reprogrammed it to use for my own endeavors. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to use this one for healing other people and reprogram. So I'm using that as a simile. So you could say there's forces, you could say there's powers that be, there's some kind of, you know, spiritual force about the Mandela effect that goes in and changes people's minds, right? But if you have the force of will, and you have the ability to not have thoughts, then you can't it won't affect you, and then you can, when those thoughts come to you, you can change those, you know, and reformat them and not let it, you know, affect you. So at that point I was thinking I'm definitely in a simulation, because I'm like in the matrix, and I'm getting, but instead of like in the matrix where we're, you know, separate, I'm like a program in the matrix. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna reprogram these programs that are attacking me. And I did, but I don't comment on that Facebook page anymore, because I think, if we are in a matrix, that is just a site where it's looking for people just starting to become aware. Okay, Tammy. So I won't talk while you're gone. No kidding. So, so I felt like it was like a site for people to go on, and then they're being trolled, and they're being, you know, manipulated to forget, you know, and not be aware of the Mandela effect. So I feel like there's a force involved with it going around, you know, putting people back in their place and making people back asleep. And again, I'm not saying it's a simulation, because if we were truly in a simulation, no one would notice at all, ever, right? Wouldn't that be the case? Although I said this before, don't they feed off their emotions? Again, my apologies for coughing. I hate it when I cough. Yeah, so if you talk about the archon beings or negative entities or reptilians, whatever, they would feed on lower vibrational levels, and yeah, so they'll feed on that unawareness, and certainly that could be, the case. My thinking about it over years, I came to the conclusion that I really believe, in a way, well, I really believe that reptilians are almost 2D. Like they're in like this like second dimensional level, and we're in like a third dimension, right? So they constantly want to be in a third dimension, so they're only in a second dimensional level, where they want to be in a third dimension. So, but the what they're stuck in is a second dimension where they're stuck in this level where they could just feed off people's energy, negative vibrations, and they're trying to, get into like a third dimensional level. That's why I think that you see like, people having, reptilian eyes. Those entities will come, from a second dimensional. They'll populate into a third dimension, and then they can't maintain it and they go back. I think when the vibrational rates, match up correctly, then they could get into that more of a third dimensional level from the second dimension. I'm not saying there's only one second dimension. If you look at superstring theory, there's 11 dimensions. And I've actually had sit downs and spoken to theoretical physicists like Michio Kaku, who I know, and I have his phone number and email. I haven't talked to him in a while. But I had a long sit down with him and talked about the different dimensions, which was friggin' awesome. And I just couldn't understand different dimensions. I just said, you know what, Michio, I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around it because I'm in the third dimension. Just wanted to see your point of view. He said, I love Michio. So cool, He's talking to you individually. It's like he's on television, he's like, well, Victor, what we have is you're in a third dimensional layer. Think of it like there's like a cloth that's draped around you, but the cloth is being hung on a frame, and the frames are being pulled by other dimensions. So those dimensions, it's actually hanging from those dimensions, but we're within those dimensions. So I was like, oh, okay, now I got it. Now it kind of makes sense. So we had this really, really, cool conversation. Like I did him a big favor. I said, listen, I did a big favor for you, buddy. I was like, you just got to do one favor for me. He goes, what? Let me talk to you for half an hour and pick your brain. It's like, okay. I'm doing a bad Michio Kaku imitation, but I got to talk to him for half an hour. It filled a lot of weird gaps that I had in my mind, and it allowed me to expand, which was really cool. I don't mean to just blab on, but we started talking about that. What do you guys want to talk about for a minute? Sometimes I just sign off. Everybody's gone or back. I hope you're taking bathroom breaks. Just kidding. Where are they taking breaks to? Where are you going? I had to go eat. No, I had to go walk my dog. You said dog. I had to go. Right. Anyway, so the dimensions are pretty cool. So the way I ended up visualizing, it helped me a lot to visualize higher than the third dimensional level, and I posted this on my. Okay, cool. Everybody's leaving and coming back. Maybe I'm talking too long. I'm talking 39 minutes. I felt like 3 minutes, right? So anyway, I haven't talked about this before. Maybe you haven't, but I was talking about black holes. So black hole, if you think about it, is the ultimate way to picture another dimension. Yeah, 4D, correct. So higher dimensional levels. So, and I just was like visualizing, and I started studying black holes a lot, watching videos on black holes. I'm like, there's something here with a black hole that's eluding me, and I'm not getting it. So one of the things interesting about black holes, talk about higher dimensions. So a black hole is obviously black holes are lenses, right? That's one thing. That's one thing that you can think about. Black hole is a lens, and I, you know, and I thought about that. Uh, yeah, I like talking about dimensions too. And here's a weird thought, just to go off on another tangent. What if the sun was like a projector, right? And what if we're like those are projectors? What if we are like in some kind of virtual reality? What if that's the projector, and on the Earth, we're like the gravity and everything is like now we're like the characters, and that's the projector. And what if black holes are the eyes, like watching the movie, right? These are things I come up with, and I'm like, ooh, and I'm not even stoned, right? Uh, so I come up with this stuff when I'm sober. So I'm like, oh, what if that is a like a camera? Makes sense, right? We have, the Earth just recently, physicists are saying the Earth is slowly moving away from the sun, 1.3 centimeters a year, right? Weird. But if you think about it, they're saying, oh, it's do this, do that. Photons are pushing all the time, right? You didn't know that about moving away from the Earth, the sun? It's natural. Oh, about dimensions. So, anyway, so we're moving away from the sun a little bit, and the photons are always pushing. So, to me, I'll get back to dimensions. To me, the photons would be pushing us away from the sun because they're always pushing. We're being hit. Uh, how would, well, and I deleted this video. Here, I'm going to say it again. Maybe I'll be forced to delete this one. There was a Einstein-Rosenberg bridge, and it wasn't Einstein-Rosen bridge. It was the Einstein-Rosen. It's called Rosen now. It was Rosenberg. So his name is Mandela Effect got deleted. I discovered that one. Flip me out. And I know it's the Einstein-Rosenberg bridge. Why would I make that up? And if you Google it, you could still Google it and find some residual for Einstein-Rosenberg bridge if you specifically look for on Google, you go to like sold selling items, and then you'll see some pictures. Einstein Rosenberg Bridge. Who would make that up? Why would that come about? So that was definitely the case. So it was the Einstein Rosenberg Bridge, and the interesting thing I said about it was an Einstein Rosenberg bridge would be these two. There was these two dimensions, and then there'd be like a spot where a pencil would go through from one to the other, like a black hole, and you could travel from a wormhole from one to the other. So there was definitely some kind of, maybe there was an editing going along where people were coming up with ideas for higher dimensions, and it was edited out of our reality, so we wouldn't know about it. Who knows, right? We could just conjecture at this point. So with the Anyway, I'll get back to the black holes. So, with the black hole, okay, you have event horizon, right? Giving out Hawking radiation off one end to the other end now. But the event horizon, if you think about it, takes all the values of the universe and presents in the event horizon. So it could be likened to a computer where the computer, you would input data and you would drop like a piece of anything, drop it into a black hole, and the equation is solved within the black hole because it's the ultimate quantum computer, because the size of the black hole gives out the answer, right? Recently, there was a paper written that the black hole, let's say this is the opening, it goes down, and they're saying it goes down and down and down and down. So it exponentially goes down, where time and time and space are definitely related, so you got time and space. So as it goes down, it just continually stretches going down, right, like in the movie, somewhat in the movie Interstellar in a way. But my if you go on my Facebook page, I have a small thing, not a paper. I don't present the equations, probably don't know the equations, but I present something about time in a black hole. So here I'll get into it. So if you're going into the event horizon, okay, and you're going into the event horizon. Now let's say you safely pass through event horizon. Now there's two types of black holes. There's a spinning black hole and there's a non-spinning black hole. So a non-spinning black hole you couldn't travel through, but if there was one where it's spinning, there's like a tube through its center, then you could travel through that one. Anyway, my point is, yeah, I want to watch that again, Interstellar, right? Can't, it's not on Netflix. Sucks. I couldn't find the library. I have to find it again. Everybody hated it but me, around me. I'm like, why would you hate that? And they're, oh, it couldn't happen. I'm like, yeah, it definitely could happen. What do you mean? They didn't like the ending. Okay, so who says you have to like it all the way? I enjoyed it, right? I love sci-fi. Anyway, so as you get, this is the interesting part. Follow me here. So as you get into the black hole, right? What I call this is my own ideas of causality field. So think about this way. Big Bang. Big Bang happened. We have a Big Bang. Everything is spanned out from the Big Bang, correct? That's what they're saying. So, now we're on the edge of time where up to right now, this very point is the edge of the known universe. As you go backwards in time, we're going closer. If we could go back, 14 billion years and whatever, we go back to formation of world, 14, Mandela effect changed that, but it was 14, um, uh, coincidentally, you watched Superstring Theory before? Maybe not. So, anyway, if you were going backwards in time, here's my point. It would seem like you were in a black hole because everything would be going towards the center of one spot, correct? So think of it like a black hole could be like an expanding universe, but from our point of view, we're seeing in reverse. So if you're outside a black hole, it seems like matter's getting sucked inward. When you travel into the black hole, though, your causality field would be reversed. So how do I know this? So I'm taking into effect the, Big Bang. Um, yeah, it can be confusing. How do we know black holes even exist? How do we know anything exists? We don't. Um, I could get into that too. There's something cool about that. Michio Kaku gets into that. So let's put a footnote there. I'll come back to it. Remind me. So anyway, so as you go into the black hole, here's my point. You go into it, your causality field changes. So what that means is you're not looking, your future isn't towards the center of the black hole anymore. When you go past a certain point through the black hole, your future is facing outwards towards the surface of the black hole. So if your future is the surface of the black hole, the things falling into the black hole are your future events, okay? And as you get into the black hole, time slows down. So it could be theoretically that we're inside a black hole right now, just time seems reversed to us. So we're actually traveling uh, towards the center of the black hole right now. So we're going towards the Big Bang, but from our point of view, we're in an expanding universe. Do you see what I'm saying? So when I came up with that theory of the barrier between the event horizon and time reversing and not reversing, it helped me understand higher dimensions. So when you have that barrier in between time reversing and going forward, that's when you can understand that how higher dimensions can work. And you'll have to like meditate on it, and then it kind of like comes to you. Hopefully I'm explaining that. If you go on my website and you can read it, it kind of makes more sense maybe. But So as you go inside the black hole, your future is facing outwards. Your future isn't towards the center. You know it wouldn't be towards the center because that wouldn't make sense. I don't believe in the past or future. Everything is now what we call past. Yeah, that's a good point. Uh, I come to that idea a lot during my day sometimes, and it stops you in your tracks. You're like, thanks for like my theory. And you know what? The interesting part is there's these scientists, they're coming out with this, and I published this like a year ago on my website. So to me, I published it, and they're coming out with theories like my theory, like now. I think I'm ahead of the curve, and I think they'll show some papers and the equations. I'll show that there's a time reversal once you get in a black hole. Like it seems like it's expanding universe to an observer inside a black hole. But again, that's one of the things you can't predict. Now, what was my footnote? Did anybody remind me what I was saying? Oh, I remember. I thought this was pretty cool. That Michio Kaku, and I'll get back to the time thing. Michio Kaku said that it's kind of blew my mind that we never really touch anything. Like, I'm not touching that screen right now. And we'll get to time. Time's pretty cool. We're not touching anything. We have these we have this barrier around our skin, which is a magnetic field. So we have magnetic fields around us. So you can't actually touch anything. You're only touching magnetic fields. So I'm getting force feedback from touching things as the magnetic fields interacts with my magnetic field. If we could touch something, actually touch it, the molecular bonds between those things would dissipate, and then those things would bond together. So we actually have never actually quote unquote touched something else. So when you sit on a chair, you're actually a millionth of a millionth of an inch separate from that chair. So your body isn't touching that, or your cloth isn't touching anything. You're always a billionth of an inch separated. So interestingly enough, if you think about time, that we have a time lag in between our thoughts, and time lag in between thoughts and the rest of our world. There's like a billionth of a second difference between the inside of our brain and our reality we're experiencing. So we're experiencing a time lag. So if you want to think about it, we're experiencing time lag, and we're never really touching anything. So we're ultimately in a separate, reality all the time. But our brains, wire it up. So we are. So for instance, I'm wearing, these glasses. So if I put them on, like your nose is, your brain's programmed not to see your nose. So like I program my brain, because I'm wearing them a while, not to see my glass lenses. So when I'm looking around, I don't see the lenses. If I really think about it, then I'll see the lenses. So if you think about it, you'll see the nose on your face. If you really think about it, you look down, now you're seeing a nose. So your nose is taking up a lot of the room of your visual acuity. It's taking up a lot of the room. But our brains are programmed to ignore the nose. So here's where I get into my deep stuff. What other things are our brains trained to from birth to not see in our reality? So there are a lot of things. Turns out, right? If you go to natives that never had contact with the outside world, and there's a new Mandela effect that all of a sudden there's new groups of natives. There's that never had contact the outside world. It was only one or two, but now there's like 30 different groups, which is very interesting. Anyway, if you go to those people and you talk to them and you take them into the world, our world, they don't recognize square shapes because in nature there really isn't any square shapes unless you count that iceberg. That's a Mandela effect, the square or square clouds now. I digress on purpose. But if you have these square shapes, they don't see square shapes. They can't kind of comprehend square shapes because in nature it's always round or moving around, and it's just hard for them to. Are you going? The rest of you had mind. Cool. Good night. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't talk so long, but anyway, my point is, and I'm gonna leave off with a couple of things. There's things in our reality right now that we're not perceiving, but we can perceive. So when we detoxify, that was talked about with Jay Chris. Love that show. When we detoxify, we're able to perceive more of our reality uh, because we're able to take in more. So when you're able to not have those thoughts, you're able to have a clearer mind. You're opening yourself up to more things, and then you'll actually perceive more things around you, like the Mandela effect. So we're actually perceiving more, going into a higher dimensional state, fifth dimension, because you're able to perceive more. So people have been calling the Mandela effect like a timeline change, right? So what is the fifth dimension or fourth dimension? What are these things? So these, right? I'm going to use your word perspective. So your perspective is opened up to these higher dimensional, you know, wavelengths, because now you're open more to more perceiving these things. And I'll make a case in point. And I could talk about this for a day. In fact, I wanted to write a book about it. But you know, like God is a what's God? You know, God is a higher in a higher dimension, obviously, right? God's good, all that good stuff. Where is He? What's going on? So there's this higher dimension. One of the aspects of the higher dimensions that intersects our reality is it's able to intersect through, you might say, sound. It's non-sound through through the vibrational level of Om, right? So here I'm talking about holy stuff. So when you're able to more perceive the non-perceivable and more into get in tune with your higher self, you're able to get into a higher dimensional wavelength of Om, which in the Vedic texts are known as the highest, form. If you read the Upanishads, the first thing they talk about is Om. It's the first paragraph. It's in there. So, and that's one of the holiest texts on the planet. So, these things lend themselves to you understand that the higher frequencies, our reality is like it's a holy reality. We're in a spiritual realm. We're in a spiritual realm, obviously, because there's spiritual beings in it, and we have access to these spiritual. So higher dimensions are spiritual, higher dimensions. Lower dimensions are right. Lower dimensions are lower, and then you'll hear sometimes people saying, "Oh, there's like a ringing." They hear ringing in. Yes, the ringing in your ears. You'll hear that. That's Om, right? So that's the higher dimension, the realm that certain people are able to touch on a little bit, and a lot of people erroneously think it's tinnitus, but that is not. Hi, Tammy. So what I'm saying is that is your a key One of the keys for a higher dimensional, I just told you. I know what it is. I don't have to have, you know, I don't have ideas about it. I know exactly, and again, I could write an entire book about it. I merged with that higher frequency back in 2011, and not to say too much about it, but it's a higher dimensional level, which helped me do a lot more healing and everything. So that Om level is what all the gurus and always talking about. Talk about that Om frequency, and once you're getting more in tune, you have to clear out the toxins in your body was one of the keys for me, and God led me to that and led me on the next step. So there's layers, and if you want to get to that layer, I've been trying to tell people and teach people for 7 years, 8 years, since I got in tune with this, is breathing. There's no shortcuts, okay? Like I used to meditate 4 hours every day, 5 hours every day before I got to a certain level of enlightenment. Um, and you read that, and some guys say, "Oh, you can't talk about yourself being enlightened." You can't say that. A real enlightened teacher wouldn't talk about being enlightened. Well, eventually you would. So I could talk about it. So I got to a certain level of enlightenment, and then there's like deeper layers, and you're always like, the crazy part about enlightenment is you're always thinking there must be another layer to it, and then that's what drove me crazy for a while. I'm like, there must be more, must be more, must be more, but actually there's less. It's when you realize less is more is when you come to another level of understanding. Sometimes it is what it is, and looking out with your eyes, that's what you're looking at. You know, when you're reading the Bible all the time, you're looking for deeper meanings, and it kind of drives you crazy a little bit. And then I was reading the Bible all the time, and then you find like one thing it means another thing, and then you cross reference, and then, oh, it means this, it means that, and you go on these goose chases, and it leads you down these rabbit holes, and then a lot of it is true, and then these other things you're like, you know, who is it making sense to? You have to be in that right frequency for those passages to make sense. Otherwise, it seems like gobbledygook. Like Revelations to me, for a long time in my life, I'd read Revelation and I said, this doesn't make sense. I find inner strength when I read because they represent spiritual symbolism. Okay, Mr. Glass. That's topical right now. But no, that's cool. There is, like I was saying to Jay Chris before, there's a level of inner thoughts, and then there's outside beings that gives us our thoughts. So if you think about right now, what would be the most perfect you? What would be like a superpower? Right. If what would be the ultimate superpower? The thing about superpowers are in our imagination. Okay, we can't really imagine something if it couldn't be real. Think about that. You can't, there isn't anything outside of our brains that we can't imagine that really couldn't be real. That I thought about that for a while, and then I was like, wow. So what could we not, what can you imagine? Like, okay, a 1,000,000-foot cliff. Well, that could be real. What could we, to do nothing at will? Well, I could sit in my living room and do nothing all the time. So I'm not sure what you mean. So, uh, right. So imagine very carefully. Right. So, I got into that for a while. Watch your thoughts, watch where you're thinking. Don't, there's nothing new under sin. That's what I was saying before. Plato said that. So, if you're, I was like, oh, I'm manifesting this, I'm manifesting that, I'm manifesting this. So then you're on a certain level when you go up to, a higher dimensional frequency where you start manifesting things. I'm like, shoot, I manifested manifested this. I don't want to manifest that. I want to manifest this. And then you start guarding your thoughts and watching your thoughts and be careful of your thoughts. So that's a whole other level. When you get to a certain frequency, you start manifesting things and you're like, I don't want to manifest that. Oh, like I was thinking about, just for instance, you start thinking about, I don't know, anything. You start thinking about rocks, you think about rocks. Um, yeah, get rid of your addictions. Yeah, I was thinking about rocks. And then like later in the day, I'll meet somebody. Hey, my name's Roxon. Nice to meet you. Or Rockville. Oh, I'm going to Rockville. Oh, are you going, you know, it's just like, whoa, I manifested that. How did I come up with that? Or maybe I was taking a trail idea, that vibration. I caught part of it and the rest came over. There's all these ideas behind, where are we getting these um, things from. But it just seems like if you think about it as a simulation, to get back to that, then, if we look at the double slit experiment, you're looking at the double slit, and the double slit's giving out, it's giving out, when the observer's calling the, you're able to observe and you're changing the outcome, right? So if we're in a simulation, the same thing like in a video game. If no one's in that section of the video game, it's not reacting, right? So when someone's in that area of the video game, all of a sudden it's coming into play. So when you're causing your willpower and everything, you're causing things to happen and vibrate, all of a sudden those things vibrate back. And then all of a sudden, like, I'll be out and, I'm thinking about roses. And then next thing on TV, roses, or somewhere else, roses. Everything's roses for a minute and then it goes away. And you're like, what the heck? So it used to really bug me and I just didn't understand it. So I started timing these things back when I was really young. I'd be like, you know, maybe in my early 20s. So I'd say, okay, I saw one thing. I see triplicates. So I'd see one thing. I see I'd see a sign. It says, this or whatever. And then later I'd see the same thing and I'd see the same thing. Usually it's cycled within 24 hours. So I was like, okay, I'd see 24-hour cycles. So I'd see three things consecutively 24 hours all the time. So I'd like make a note of it, make a note, mental note. And then later on, if you raise your frequency, I noticed those cycles were shortening. Um, Visualizing most acceptable representation of ideals and affections was logical and good. Right. Um, Sounds easier to do than it is to do sometimes. If you're able to have clear thoughts, it seems easier. But minds always go certain negative aspects. So that's interesting. Anyway, so we're talking a lot about stuff. We're talking about my favorite thing, that frequency. Higher frequency is the higher frequency leads to the like the Ashka records, those records. I think that's you're able to access it more. Those ideas and that vibration around the Earth, the Schulman field, which is really 832, and some people say 732 frequency is the frequency for that. So once you are able to harmonize with that, more things will make sense to you. So how I should say, and I did give out some clues on how to get there. I'm not trying to keep it hidden, but it comes to you when you get to getting certain levels, and I'm there, so I'm trying to teach people. So if you do the meditation I'm talking about and the breathing, then you'll get to the next level of it. And I talked about in my last video, when you get is not awkward, is accurate with you, not awkward, too difficult. Um, it's kind of like inside secret knowledge, a lot of this stuff. So I try not to talk about it too much unless I'm supposed to, but like I have a big blabbermouth, so I think everybody's going to get there a certain time. Maybe I'm a little bit ahead of everybody else. So I post a lot of things on my Facebook page and on my mostly on my website about the Hamsa meditation. I think that's the easiest way to get to intuitive level and get to a level where you can learn to do Kriya yoga and raise your Kundalini, and that'll help you, raise your frequency and vibration. So, yeah, I said it. So when you're like I said, I'm the real deal. So when you get to that level and you're raising your, frequency, it's more like Kundalini. So when you're raising your frequency in the level, you could get up higher and higher. Uh, what's not so defined? Preliminal, leaving room for possibilities. Um, you know, what I'm saying is, I left off in my last video. If you go back and watch it, I was talking about how to access higher frequencies. So I kind of, let the cat out of the bag mostly. So you could just watch that yourself and, figure out what I'm talking about. And I try not to make anything really a secret. Pretty open book about everything. But it helped me to do healings more. Simplicity resolves complexity. Right, right. And I think that that's the, I'm part German, so the German aspect in me looks at things and says, oh, everything's simple. Not to sound racist, but, you know, we look at complex things and you boil it, right? You boil it down and say, oh, it's simple. I mean, I made things in my life so complicated, and just able to translate some of the things into a simulation, kind of a construct, helped me deconstruct all the hard things I was thinking of. And I'm like, oh, well, then if that's the case, then this makes sense, and that makes sense, and that makes sense. So now that makes sense, and this makes sense. Like, why overcomplicate everything? Like, for instance, I prayed once, like 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I was praying and praying and praying, and I was praying. I said, "What should I do? What should I do? What should I do in my life? What should I do?" And I heard a small voice inside my head, just say, "Just do good." And you're like, "Oh, okay, just do good." And you think about it, and that should be pretty common sense. But if you use that rule during the day, and a choice comes, like, which one should I do? Just do good. Okay, I'll do the good thing. Okay, what should I do now? Just do good. Okay, I'll just do that. Okay, somebody's saying something to me and I don't like it and I'm embarrassed. Should I tell the truth or should I lie about it? Just do good. Tell the truth. Okay, I'll do that. Like, why overcomplicate everything? Uh, when you tell the truth, it leads you to a higher vibrational level. That's the key, right? When telling the truth versus telling a lie. So I made that a. I'm talking for 73 minutes now. My apologies. I meant to talk for 10 minutes. See, I could just talk to you guys. But I meant to talk just. Uh, I meant to just. So I said, okay, when I wake up this morning, after, certain things happen to me, I said, okay, today I'm not going to tell anybody a lie all day today. I'm going to use my willpower not to tell a lie all day. From the beginning of the morning till when I rest my head at night, I'm not going to tell a lie. And then, you go through the day and, and you force yourself to do it. It's like, oh, that was difficult. And then you wake up the next morning, okay, I'm going to do it today. So then you make it through another day and you go, okay, I made it 2 days with not telling a lie. 2 days. How long can I do this for? Let's do it another day. And then you go another day. And then you go 3 days and 4 days. And then you go like for a month. And then if you could get to like 6 months, something crazy happens, right? So somebody like said something to me and I automatically just said an answer, boom, 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 boom. And they're like, what? And like, yeah, that's it. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, it's like, this is the way this works because of that. It was something about like reality or something. It was pretty deep at the time. I don't remember what exactly it was. But anyway, so they ended up looking it up, and I didn't really understand what I was saying. I just said it. And it ended up being the case, you know? So I'm like, my words became truth. It was like truth. Like I'm speaking the truth, and the truth has so much power in it. So that's what I'm saying. So once you get to that point where you could speak the truth um, all the time, then you're able to discern, you know, lies from truth. So then you watch TV, and I'm interacting with people, and I could tell when they're lying because I just so used to the truth. It's like you could taste it. It's like you sense the lie, and you're aware of it. And after like 6 months of doing it, then you're like, that guy's not telling all the truth, or he's lying, or it's like when the truth is synchronized with perception. Right, exactly. So, like when I was young, I met this guy. Like you would sometimes meet these guys, and like these guys are real spiritual guys, and you'd meet him, and he's like, and he'd say to me, like, listen, whatever you do, don't lie to him. He could see right through you. I'm like, what do you mean? Whatever you do, don't lie to him. He'll know what you're lying about. He could see right through you. He'll just know. Don't, whatever you do, don't lie. I'd be like, okay. So when you talk to me, I'd be like, yes, no, yes, tell him. And he's like, okay. So I'm like, this guy's the deal. Like, he knows. So you'd meet people back then when I was younger. I'd be like, okay, he could see, like he knows. So you have to be like, how do you get to that level is by telling the truth all the time. And then you get to that level, and then like I could see through people, and you like see through people, and people are fake, 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 fake. You know, and it's scary. So I've met people like Wall Street bankers that are like, you know, high earners, and they're literally like asleep. Like I'm talking to them, and like, you know, I mean, their eyes are open, but I could tell he's asleep. Like I could tell him whatever, you know, in a way, and like, you know, I could lead him around, and like he'll be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd be telling him the truth, but I could, you know, lead him around, and he, you know, it's just. But I'm saying lead him around. You could like change his perceptions like so easily because he's so used to all the lies. I mean, he doesn't know what the truth is. So that's the scary part. Um, you can tell when close family members are lying. Well, you know, when you start, and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth all the time, but when you start, you know, you get into that truth vibration. That's on my Facebook page, on my website. You know, then you get in that truth vibration. That's a real healing, you know, helpful vibration, being true to yourself. And let's talk about this with multidimensional. And then I'm probably going to sign off because I'm talking way too long. But this is fun. So think of the aspect, and I have this on my website too, about let's pretend that there are other dimensions, just like ours. And let's pretend like there's another me holding his you know camera and talking into it. Let's pretend there's another me. If you're being the highest you possible, right? If you're being who you really are, you're being the same guy as another guy on another earth acting the same way. Like you are exactly acting the same way. So, um, yeah, no game between people. So, I mean, life's too short for these games, right? Imagine that you would go on a date with somebody and everybody just told the truth. So, if you were, what I'm saying is to integrate, and I had this theory before, integrating your higher self, integrating yourself from your other realities. You know, what if you're all thinking the same thoughts at the same time because you're doing the right thing. You're actually telling the truth. You're doing the right thing. So when you find that groove, that niche, all the other yous, you know, are all the other yous out there are doing good goodness good. I'm gonna sign off in a second, Jenna Gems. So thanks for tuning in. So all the other yous are being you. So you're getting more power because all those other yous are acting the same way. So you're more in line with stay with your inner hero, right? So you're being more in line with who you really are. And when you're more in line with who you really are, you're integrating your other self. So I have this on my website, victorhamza.com. If you want to read the story, like if you were in a room and there's all these different yous, which one would you want to be? You know, there's one that's doing drugs, there's one that's smoking, there's one that tells lies, there's one. Which one would you want to be? Which one would you pick out to be you? And, you know, go be that person, you know, be that person that you'd want to be in that room. Let's say there was 1,000 yous in that room. Which one would you rather be? And then be that person. And then all the other yous on all the other planet Earths that are out there would be you as well, and you'd integrate and you'd be more in line with all the other yous, which would be more powerful. And then, you know, that's what I'm talking about. So being integrating your multi-dimensional higher self. Look for, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So looking for the you that you'd rather be. Think about it. Which you do you want to be? Do you want to be, you know, the guy or gal, you know, doing lies, or doing the ones doing truth? Having a real relationship with somebody, or having a relationship that you're afraid to break up with because you don't want to hurt the other person, or you don't want to get hurt, like, but you're really not in love, or you are in love, or whatever it is. You know, be real, because life's too short. And once you're finding that vibration, that you're being really you and being the authentic you, true to heart, right? True to heart, meaning the authentic you. Then you know, more positive things can happen, because you know the angels, the higher self, your higher self, and the angels want to interact with you more. But if you're not being, you know, who you really are, it's harder for them to interact with you. You know, that's what I found. So if you're more reacting at how you really are, you know, in your humble self, um, you know, like Jesus said, the meek shall inherit the earth. So when we're more in line with being, you know, that meekness, that openness to, you know, listening instead of speaking all the time, is going to help you to understand who you really are. So, and with that said, I've been speaking a lot. So hopefully I said some things, maybe not too much, as Howard Stern always says. I did listen to him a couple times. So hopefully I didn't say too much. We said a lot. I hope you liked the video. I have 5 people turning in. I'm psyched. Listen, you know, Jesus had 12 people. Look what happened. So what happens with 5? What happens with 5 people listen, and you take it out in your own, you know, lives and do good, and that'll be awesome, man. You know, be your real self out there, and your authentic self, you know, and things will change. I'm glad you liked it. I hoped, if you want to share it, I do distance healing for people. If you want to do that, let me know. You can send me something, and I will do that. And I'm supposed to do this meditation tomorrow. Nobody really signed up for it, I have to say, which could be cool, because maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe people are not being honest with themselves because they rationalize that the world is forcing them to be conformed to what the world really wants. Right. You know, Jesus said that, you know, my followers won't be, fist bump, my followers aren't of this world. And that's what it is. You know, you're noticing the Mandela effect. You're noticing these things because you're being not of this world. So that's a good thing, I think. Uh, Tip my hat to you all. Thanks for tuning in. Love you all. I wouldn't talk like this if I didn't love everybody. Share this if you like. If you want, refer your friends to it if you got something out of it. I'll say more things later on certain subjects, and I'll try to pare it down. I try to keep these videos I do usually within 50 minutes, because if I go online, I see when it's 84 minutes long now. Wow. Then I don't have the time to watch it. If you got something out of it, let me know. And if you comment, I'll always, I usually respond, if not always respond. And here I am on a Saturday night sitting down talking to you guys. So, love you guys, even the guys. What doesn't feel like it? LOL doesn't feel like it. What doesn't feel like it? What's my first name? Victor. I said that a few times. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, Digital. Tell uh, Jay Chris I did a good job. Love you. Love you back. Awesome. Yeah, Victor Hamza. I have a website, victorhamza.com. I thought I said that a few times. Um, so, check out that. Maybe we'll talk more about doesn't I know it doesn't feel like 85 minutes. It felt like a minute. Um, Maybe we cause some kind of time rift between ourselves where time kind of slowed down, and now it speeds up. I could get into that more. There is some kind of things going around with time. Real briefly, you could measure, when the higher vibrational things are happening by counting. I counted Mississippi or thousands, but if you count to 20, you could see when the higher vibrational things are happening, versus not. And try it out yourself. And usually it's a weird whole number like 1.8 or 1.6. It's not like 1.65, which is pretty cool. So time's been different, and maybe we'll talk more about time. But time is definitely different, and like Bashar says that each time is like a snapshot. Phenomenal spiritual research. I'll check it out. All right. And I could talk about time forever. That was funny. I could talk time forever. Anyway, love you guys. Talk to you later. Message me. Don't be shy.